please send an ambulance, please.
What's the problem?
My wife, I think my wife is dead.
Sir?
Please, sir.
The call for help comes from Oklahoma City's most exclusive neighborhood.
Please.
What's the address?
3056 Brush Creek Road, please.
Okay, sir, I need you to slow down, okay?
Hurry,
What's
hurry.
the problem there?
My wife's bleeding all over the place. Look,
Okay.
I don't know. She
Sir, I
looks
need
like
you-
somebody's
sir.
hurt her. Please, help.
Sir, I've got help on the way now. I need you to calm down so we can help your wife,
Please.
okay?
No, listen, I'm a doctor. I've been trying CPR. Please send somebody quick.
It was a drizzly, cold day. It's Valentine's Day of all days, and then you have this gruesome, very bloody murder.
Socialite Susan Hamilton lies smashed in a pool of blood. Her husband of 14 years, Dr. John Baxter Hamilton, frantically tries to revive her.
No, listen, I'm a doctor. I've been trying CPR. Please send somebody quick.
Is she not breathing?
No, she's not breathing. I don't get pulse. Please.
Okay.
Hurry.
You're doing CPR on her?
Yes, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm going to hang up so I can
All
get
right.
you, please.
We'll be right there.
Okay.
17 minutes later, Dr. Hamilton is taken into custody. Suspect number 1.
I'm an innocent man. I should never be here. And I fully believe that one day I'll be out.
This is the story of great love and gruesome murder. A story in which forensic science will determine who is innocent and who is guilty. Valentine's Day 2001. John and Susan Hamilton's handsome home is now a crime scene.
The nature of this attack is that it was very sudden, a blitz attack.
The injuries to the body were severe. They were devastating. You could tell that this individual was probably in sheer terror for a brief period of time in her life.
The hardest part forever for me will be losing her. It was not right. She didn't die of a disease. She didn't die in a car accident. She was murdered, and I just find that intolerable.
In a single morning, John Hamilton's whole world has crumbled. Veteran homicide detective Randy Scott is lead investigator on the case.
The important thing about an investigation is you work to try to tell the story for the victim. The goal's not to put John Hamilton in jail. The goal's to tell the truth of what happened to Susan Hamilton on February the 14th.
Decoding Susan's injuries falls to Dr. Jeffrey Gofton.
So after the autopsy, it became fairly clear that this had taken place in 3 parts. You had a ligature abrasion around the neck. She tried to escape, had some sort of defensive injuries, trying to pull away whatever the ligature was, and then was subsequently pushed to the floor. The bruising to the face, there was an extensive amount of bruising. You also had some sort of blunt force impact to the face with facial fractures, lacerations around the face, and contusions to the face. And then the third part being multiple blunt force impacts to the side of the head. And those, in my opinion, would have been lethal and would have ended her life.
While Dr. Gofton can say how Susan's morning ended, it's up to police to uncover how it all began. On the morning of February 14th, Susan is due at a meeting of the Oklahoma Medical Society Alliance, a wives' group that organizes kitchen tours to raise money for the poor. She never arrives. At 9:17, her mother phones the house. She gets no answer. For Dr. Hamilton, the events of that morning are just like any other day in his 25 years as an obstetrician-gynecologist.
Not bad at all, thank you.
Very nice. Okay.
He tells police he had a few surgeries booked over the morning and hoped to squeeze in as much time with his wife as possible. Just before 11 a.m., he returns home to retrieve his appointment book. He expects to find the house locked and empty. Instead, he makes a horrific discovery. Susan lies naked on the bathroom floor, surrounded by a pool of blood. Her head is smashed open, and a necktie is knotted tightly around her throat.
The day that Susan was killed was a day that will forever be imprinted in my memory. The scene was one that you can't really describe adequately. When I walked in the house, it's not as I expected because I didn't expect her to be home. And when I walked into the bathroom and I saw her laying in a pool of blood, it was difficult. I've seen lots of horrible accidents and things in the emergency room, but nothing ever as violent, as bloody, and as horrific as what I saw when I walked in and found Susan lying in a pool of blood.
Please.
Okay.
Hurry.
You're doing CPR on her?
Yes, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm going to hang up so I can get in, please.
We'll be right there.
Okay.
As a doctor, he knows Susan is gone. But as a husband, Hamilton can't abandon the fight to save her. He has no idea he is about to face another life and death battle. Sherry Levan was Susan Hamilton's college roommate, best friend, and confidant for 37 years.
Susan was just this incredibly beautiful woman. She was the type of person that heads would turn when she'd walk into a room. She had this vibrant personality. She had a great sense of humor. She loved life. She got the most out of every single thing that she did.
For many, it seems the Hamiltons live a privileged life. They have made their sprawling home a showpiece of style and taste, the best that money can buy. They enjoy the perks of John's profession: expensive cars, membership in exclusive country clubs. Well known in their community, the Hamiltons are active in their church and fixtures on the social scene. They have contributed generously to a variety of charities.
We're on to it every weekend and we can really enjoy each other, you know?
I would describe their marriage as very romantic, as very close. They spent an awful lot of time together, more so than most anybody I've ever known that was married. I, at times, thought, gee, I wish I could find someone who loved me as much as John loved Susan.
I think in a lot of cases, our life was a storybook to some degree.
But pressures come from the outside. In the heart of the Bible Belt, Dr. Hamilton's work as an abortionist has made him some enemies. The most unsettling is an extremist group that calls itself the Army of God. The group defends those who attack and kill abortionists, and Dr. Hamilton has made it onto their hit list.
From the day I started doing abortions at the clinic, we had protesters. They would do things like try to intimidate patients and yell at them. They would hold signs with my name on it. The signs would have my name and say that I was a murderer and a baby killer.
Susan also worked 2 days a week at the clinic. In January 2001, she was confronted outside by dozens of anti-abortionists.
Several abortion protesters were outside the clinic there, and John wasn't there that day.
Abortionists are murderers. Murderers should be Executed!
She went out into the parking lot where they were, confronted the protesters, and was very concerned, very upset, went back in and made some calls to John, and actually told several people about her concerns for hers and John's personal safety.
The nervous couple turn their home into a fortress. All doors are kept alarmed and locked. Not even their longtime maid is allowed a key. Shortly before Valentine's Day, picketers obtain a permit to take their protest to the Hamiltons' very doorstep.
By the power of God, thrust into hell, Satan.
Just days later, Susan lies dead in her bathroom. The first patrolman on the scene immediately noticed details that don't fit. The home's back door has been left open to the frigid February morning. For CSIs, the door piques their interest. OCPD Sergeant Eric Richardson is lead crime scene investigator on the case.
I began processing the scene first by taking overall photographs of the house, and that was photographing the whole entire of the house, showing the doors and the windows.
Richardson focuses his attention on the open sunroom door. If the door is how the killer got in, footprints and tool mark impressions left behind could help Richardson identify Susan's murderer. Sergeant Larry Spruill is Richardson's partner at the scene.
It was apparent from the very beginning that this was going to be a high-profile case. The neighborhood that it was in is a neighborhood in which we don't work homicides. A very upscale, affluent neighborhood, huge houses, pretty successful people in there.
Using the blood reagent chemical luminol, investigators search for drip marks, blood smears, and any hidden signs of the killer's trail. Oddly, whoever killed Susan was able to get out of the house without leaving a drop of blood near either door. The investigation concentrates on Dr. Hamilton. As Susan's husband, he is the obvious first suspect. But John was madly in love with his wife, and he offers his timeline on the day of her murder as his alibi.
You are so beautiful.
He tells police that just before 7 a.m., he heads to the surgery center to perform his first operation of the day. At around 8:30, he drives home to spend some time with Susan. It's a short 5-minute drive from the hospital, which puts him at home at 8:35. At around 9 a.m., Mercy Hospital beeps Dr. Hamilton because he is late for his second surgery of the morning. His Valentine's celebrations with Susan will have to wait. Hamilton asks the nurse to delay the surgery. He's lost track of the time and will be there soon.
5 minutes. Do not put her under. Okay, thanks. Bye.
By about 9:30, Hamilton is in the doctor's dressing room. His second surgery goes off without any complications, and his colleagues notice nothing unusual about his demeanor.
It's then that John returns home after he dictates the surgical chart and everything, and he finds his front door unlocked, his back door wide open, can't find Susan, and finds her laying dead in a pool of blood in the bathroom.
I just remember feeling this horrendous panic and disbelief and fear and shock. Not only was it a scene that would shock most anybody if you didn't know the person, but when it's the person that you're in love with and excuse me.
Police compare Dr. Hamilton's story with the facts of the case. Who could gain access to the heavily secured house? Who could sneak up on a naked woman in a bathroom full of mirrors? And who could possibly want to kill this well-loved, vibrant member of the community? Dr. Hamilton remains Detective Randy Scott's prime suspect. But is he really the only one who could have killed her?
There were issues with the door open that we still had to solve and figure out what could have happened. There was also issues of an abortion clinic in this case. This could have been an issue. This could have been another suspect, another angle that somebody might have wanted to kill John Hamilton's wife or John Hamilton.
Neighbors also report finding suspicious footprints in their backyards and spotting strangers lurking around the golf course backing onto their property. But much of the evidence outside the home proves to be of little significance. The most telling clues leading to Susan's killer lie inside with the blood she has left behind. For CSIs, it's all about examination and elimination. Anything and everything could be important. Deconstructing the layout of the Hamiltons' bathroom is crucial to investigators. Whoever killed Susan had only one way in and one way out. Her naked body suggests she either knew her attacker or did not see them coming in the mirrors.
It's clear the assailant could not have snuck up on her. She's standing in front of a large mirror. She can see everything that's going on around her. The assailant was standing directly behind her while she was standing at a sink, naked, obviously preparing for her day. And she was allowing this person with two neckties to stand directly behind her in that environment. This is not someone she was a casual acquaintance with. This is someone she was intimate with.
As CSI responsible for dissecting the murder scene, Sproul measures and photographs everything he sees. His detailed observations will provide him with the needed information to design a scene sketch for investigators. His sketch records the position of every object.
Working around inside the bathroom area, like I said, the shoes were of interest. Then her towel, her wraparound was on the floor. There are areas there you can tell somebody had been standing on the rug.
We were able to determine that it looked like this woman's face had been smashed into the floor tiles, causing some severe cuts to her face and possibly breaking her nose. There was two ties that were wrapped around her neck, and we were able to find petechiae, which indicated to us that she had been strangled.
Some cleaning supplies near Susan's body seem suspiciously out of place. But tests of the items lead to a dead end. Before Susan's body is removed from the scene, Dr. Gofton performs his own examination of the room, looking for additional clues or signs that can tell him more about the cause, manner, and time of death.
My impression was, from the injuries, that these had occurred in a very brief succession of events. It was 1, 2, 3. You know, the ligature happened, then pushed to the floor, facial impact, possibly becoming unconscious, but possibly still moving around to some extent, and then followed by the blows to the side of the head.
Because of the signs of struggle, Susan's hands are bagged to preserve any possible evidence under her fingernails. The tie wrapped around her neck will also remain in place until Gofton's examination back at the morgue. Investigators scour the house for the murder weapon. looking for any type of blunt instrument. It could be a hammer or a mallet, even a perfume bottle or a lamp. A jewelry tree found in Susan's lingerie drawer raises more suspicions about Dr. Hamilton's actions that morning.
He said that he had put that jewelry in that drawer so that the police or fire department wouldn't try to steal it when they came to tend to his wife. Why would he think the police and fire department would steal it, first of all? And second of all, if he's worried about his wife, as he puts on the tape that we heard, of get here right away, help her, he sure had presence of mind and time to be hiding jewelry before he tended to her or tried to give her CPR as he was doing when the fire department arrived.
After a thorough search, both inside and outside, police are unable to locate the murder weapon. It could be anywhere. During questioning at the station, Hamilton's behavior is erratic. He has trouble speaking coherently, and he also seems to have lost control of his emotions.
Help if we have to find your wife's killer.
But as soon as the inspector leaves the room, Hamilton's entire demeanor changes. His hysteria disappears, and he even begins examining himself. What Hamilton doesn't realize is the entire process in the interrogation room is being audio and videotaped. This startling shift in behavior reads like a dead giveaway to Detective Randy Scott.
Once he got into the interview room, he'd start crying, and when they were out of the room, he didn't cry. But as the videotaped, he would wander the room and talk to himself and do things, but once the officer's in front of him, he would try to put on an emotional act, which was kind of a play, we thought.
Why are you asking me all these questions? You should be out there looking for her, not in here.
Need your help to find the killer.
Well, then you should be out there looking, not in here.
Lawyer Rob Nye has made a career of tearing apart police assumptions.
Opinions were offered about, well, how's a perpetrator supposed to act? Was Dr. Hamilton acting like a perpetrator of a crime or a victim of a crime? And it was sheer speculation and conjecture. And that is nothing but hocus pocus and psychological hocus pocus.
Detective Scott remains convinced Dr. Hamilton killed his wife, but does he have the evidence to prove it? After only 6 hours of investigation, police arrest John Hamilton on a murder complaint in the death of his wife. He's transferred to Oklahoma County Jail, where he will await his trial. Mac Martin takes on the case representing the doctor. He calls it a case of jail first, investigate later.
Instead of being what I would call an unbiased investigation, it became an investigation where every lead they turned over was an attempt to show how John committed this crime versus trying to find out objectively who actually did commit this crime.
The back door being open and the burglary issue possibly and the abortion issue possibly, I spent months looking into every issue that could be found and asking family members, asking the defense, asking anybody that called in, who else would kill Susan Hamilton and for what reason? I was unable to find anybody else. Every time I went some location and talked to somebody or interviewed a family member or anybody, it led me right back to John Hamilton.
In searching for a possible motive, police assess the Hamiltons' marriage. They learn that Susan and John had been on shaky ground since February 7th, when she discovered he'd made more than 60 cell phone calls to a topless dancer who was one of his patients.
This girl was working at a nightclub here in Oklahoma City. Susan and John had some issues over this, and within the week or so before the murder, she was able to believe that John may not have been having this affair. However, the trust had been broken because of all these calls, and she had indicated to John that she didn't trust him anymore.
On Valentine's Day, her card sends John a clear message. Their relationship is still in trouble. Chief Prosecutor is District Attorney Wes Lane.
That morning of February 14th was a morning in which really the sun was setting on their relationship. And she had given him a Valentine card that really, I believe, gave him a sense of despair. I really don't believe that he went home from that first surgery intending to kill her.
Hi, dear.
Hi. What are you doing here?
Well, I have time.
But I do believe that whatever conversation that they had in that bathroom was something that absolutely drove that despair over the edge. And then he snapped, and that in that few seconds in which he walked into his closet, stripped a pair of ties from the rack on that wall and walked up behind her and wrapped those around her head. She didn't see it coming. And frankly, up until a few seconds before that happened, he didn't see it coming either.
Police have theories, but linking Dr. Hamilton to his wife's murder is no easy feat. His surgeries at the hospital place him outside the home for much of the morning. Pinpointing Susan's time of death could be a huge step in destroying Dr. Hamilton's alibi. The task falls to Dr. Gofton.
In this case, there were so many variables going on in the circumstances. If she's in a bathroom that was relatively, if not extremely hot, she's naked without any clothing, she's a fairly healthy individual with relatively little to no body fat, and she's laying on a hard, cold surface. So all of those variables interact, and it makes it extremely difficult to come up with a specific time of death.
In the search for conclusive evidence, investigators turn to the doctor's car. If there's anything of significance, CSIs Richardson and Sproul will find it under close scrutiny at the impound barn.
We found blood in the car, blood and tissue inside the car, hair. In fact, hair and tissue still connected to each other.
We photographed the tissue and the hair as it was, collected it to make sure we didn't lose it. Then we took photographs of the possible blood on the steering wheel. And then at that point we took swabbings from the vehicle steering wheel. And then that's when we decided to go ahead and luminol the inside of the car along the driver's side.
The search pays off. Luminoling confirms the presence of blood. DNA tests confirm the blood, flesh, and hair found in the Jaguar are Susan Hamilton's. But Dr. Hamilton has an explanation.
Come on!
Worried that his car was blocking access to the house, he says he left his wife's side to move the car. But his hands were shaking too badly to start it.
Come on! Come.
At this time, he's already got a lot of blood and tissue all over his pants legs, all over his hands, and that would explain absolutely why there would be any type of blood or anything inside the car, particularly because it's right where his hands were and right where the legs of his pants would be.
It's a good explanation, but it doesn't answer all of the questions raised by the evidence.
The amount of blood blood that was in the bathroom, you would expect to see a blood trail from his shoes or even from his hands to the door to be found, and there was no evidence found like that.
My wife, I think my wife is dead, sir. Please, sir. Please, sir.
Let me connect you with the ambulance.
Help me, please, sir.
When he ultimately calls 911, he jumps up and starts to go, and he just basically runs right out of his shoes. His socks are clean. There's nothing on his socks. He testified that. That would explain how he could get to the car, how he could get back from the car without leaving a blood trail from his socks.
Severe injuries to Susan's body indicate a desperate, violent struggle. When police examine Dr. Hamilton, they find he has injuries of his own.
We've been married for 15 years. I love the woman.
Dr. Hamilton, as we examined him in the interview room, had several injuries himself that were pretty interesting. A couple of them were, as I said, he was seen in the back of the police car running his hands on the screen, which made some little red marks on his knuckles. There was also a large knot on his forehead right here. You know, that bruising doesn't show up immediately. It sometimes takes a little while. If that knot, as he put the necktie around her neck and she butted his head, would have been a good place for that knot. Him knowing that, he could have banged his head a little bit as he was doing his hands to try to eliminate that injury.
Examination of Susan's remains could corroborate or counter Scott's theory that John killed her. If she scratched her attacker, skin scrapings from beneath her nails may confirm his identity. The evidence undergoes a battery of tests at the forensic lab. The only DNA found beneath Susan's nails is her own. The results have failed to link Dr. Hamilton to the death struggle.
This whole thing didn't take very long at all, just a matter of a few seconds. From the time she was standing at the sink till the time she was dead was a very brief period of time.
No area of forensic investigation will prove more significant in the case than that of the blood spatter patterns at the murder scene. The defense team hires Tom Bevel, a former Oklahoma City homicide detective. Considered one of the best blood spatter analysts in the country, it's a major coup for the Hamilton side. But will the blood evidence clear his name and prove his innocence? One of the most enduring pieces of evidence at any crime scene is blood.
She's gone.
In the investigation of Susan Hamilton's murder, blood spatter clues are everything.
There was a lot of blood on the scene, a lot of blood spatter, a lot of pooling blood, a lot of blood transfer. And the blood was a very important factor in this scene.
I mean, one of the most fascinating pieces of evidence was what we call multi-directional blood spatter, which was found on the shoes of John Hamilton.
To a trained analyst, bloodstains and spatter marks tell the story of a victim's final moments and a killer's actions. In the Hamilton case, residue on his shirt and shoes is of paramount importance. The prosecution hires former police chief Ross Gardner as their blood expert.
Bloodstain pattern analysis is different from many forensic evidence areas and disciplines in that the bloodstain patterns define the nature of events that occurred. They're very graphic. We see the pattern, we can associate an event to it.
Expert Tom Bevel analyzes the evidence for the defense.
If Mrs. Hamilton's head hit into a blood pool, it would produce spatter. That would be an explanation for the spatter that's on the shoe. He also said he did CPR. Well, there's some blood on the center of the chest that would be consistent with the type of blood you would expect from CPR and blood being expelled out of the air passage.
If you get real close, you can see some of them, but they're difficult to see.
Dr. Hamilton had a lot of blood on him, and a lot of that blood he should have had on him. But in looking at the physical evidence, there were some striking areas that contradicted that Dr. Hamilton simply walked into the crime scene.
Tiny spatter marks on Dr. Hamilton's shoes, measuring between 1 and 3 millimeters, draw Gardner's attention. He believes the stains could only have occurred during an attack.
What if the shirt Dr. Hamilton was wearing the time he was arrested? It drew attention from Ross Gardner. This expert said he found in 2 different locations a pattern transfer. And he says those 2 pieces of evidence, the shoes and shirt with the blood patterns on them, put Dr. Hamilton present in the scene when the killer was acting.
Linear blood marks on the front of John Hamilton's shirt may solve one of the case's central mysteries, the identity of the murder weapon.
Now, we don't have a clue what that murder weapon is. It could be an instrument. It could be a bottle, a perfume bottle. That was a long standing belief that maybe a perfume bottle had been removed from the cabinet and used. But we never found the weapon.
We don't know for sure what it was. My favorite theory is that it was some type of surgical mallet that was brought to the scene, and after the incident, it went back to the hospital, went into the tray with all the other bloody instruments. Nobody ever looked at it twice.
With no witnesses and no weapon, the police and prosecution must build a circumstantial case against Dr. Hamilton. But Hamilton says the police didn't conduct a thorough investigation.
There are several different possibilities for people that could have murdered Susan. I think a great possibility that should have been explored and never was were the anti-abortion people who had threatened us over the years, and particularly within the week before Susan was killed. Other than that, it could have been a random act, a burglar, and then there are other suspects that are viable suspects.
New tonight, jurors see more evidence prosecutors say proves Hamilton's guilt. Tamara Pratt just out of the courtroom with the latest. Tamara.
Alex, each piece of evidence that's at a crime scene can talk to a crime scene reconstructionist, specifically blood spatter. Another witness, Ross Gardner, is a blood spatter expert, and his eyes found more blood. He told the jury he found it in 4 locations marked by those orange cones. On the inside,
Oklahoma City is riveted by the case.
Dr. Hamilton's loafer.
This was an absolutely huge story for Oklahoma City. It was on the front page of our papers. It led our newscasts every day. When Dr. Hamilton was arrested, there was 2 factions of Oklahoma City. One side believed there's no way he could do it. He is a good doctor. He's a sweet man, kind. He's never done anything. On the other side, you had basically the law enforcement saying, look, we think this is our guy.
While family and friends rally around John Hamilton, Susan is not forgotten. A memorial in her honor springs up in front of their now empty Quail Creek home.
The makeshift memorial to Susan Hamilton dying while the questions are very much alive.
I spent almost 11 months in the county jail before I went to trial. And I knew all along that I was going to be found innocent. I knew I was innocent. There wasn't a doubt in my mind. I knew what had happened. I was shocked that I was arrested. I was shocked that the police did as little as they could.
After 2 weeks of testimony and evidence presentation, the defense calls its last witness, renowned blood expert Tom Bevel.
The white shirt that he was wearing had multiple places where there were transfers as well as spatter. And in examining specifically the right sleeve of his shirt, there were very obvious directional blood stains as well as spatter that was on the outside.
Bevel's testimony goes well for the defense. He casts doubt on prosecution witness Ross Gardner's theories. Then, in cross-examination, District Attorney Wes Lane asks Bevel one final question. A question that will shock both the prosecution and the defense.
Relying upon that, I knew that he would at least tell the truth, and I asked him the question of was there anything that we missed? And much to my shock, he said yes.
Oklahoma City is enthralled by the Hamilton murder trial. The courtroom is packed every day.
It was his patient base and loyal patients versus the mean old prosecutor seeking to persecute this wonderfully sweet, gentle man. We had prank phone calls coming in, to me and to others involved in the case. When I say prank phone call, kind of threatening phone calls.
The trial is winding down when D.A. Lane cross-examines defense expert Tom Bevel.
It's a dangerous thing having somebody on the witness stand that is also the professor of the world in the area of bloodstain analysis, but he's on the opposite side.
Well, of course, being employed by the defense, your job is to do the best you can with the physical evidence for his benefit. When ultimately got to that particular point, obviously I knew that my answer was going to be very detrimental to Dr. Hamilton.
Bevel testifies that he found blood spatter up inside John Hamilton's shirt sleeve, spatter inconsistent with Hamilton's story.
And I said, well, what would that have been from? And then he starts talking about how, well, it could only be from one thing, and that is the slamming of Susan Hamilton's head into the ground. And I'm telling you, it was, well, even right now, I literally get choked up just thinking about it, because it was over at that point in time.
When the testimony came in that the, quote, most probable explanation was that John did this, obviously we got to redirect examine him and try to bring out the fact that there was several possibilities and there was no one more probable than the other. Unfortunately, the damage had already been done. You can't unring the bell.
After less than 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returns with its verdict.
Guilty, that is the word after just 2 hours of deliberations. New tonight, a jury decides Oklahoma City Dr. John Hamilton did murder his wife, Susan. News 9's Tamara Pratt just walked out of the courtroom. Tamara, give us the latest.
And Kelly, with that verdict of guilty, you get a life without parole. That is what the 12-member jury decided was John Hamilton's fate.
Forensic science made this case. I mean, clearly, so many other things, the bits and pieces of timing, his being one place versus another place, all of that were very important, very important. But the nail in it all was the forensic science.
But according to appeal lawyer Rob Nye, the case against John Hamilton was far from perfect and far from scientific.
Both sides offered evidence that wasn't scientifically based. I think that part of the problem with the assumption that was made was that blood spatter evidence could tell us a lot more than it really can.
I would hope that if justice is truly done, that not only am I going to be found innocent and released, but that the guilty party will be found. That's the best outcome for everything. My life can never get back to the way it was, but at least that would allow me to go on and live the rest of my life as a free man.
I don't think John Hamilton will ever admit to what occurred in that house. I think for him to admit it at this point would make him a liar, and I don't think John Hamilton's ego will allow him to be a liar.
The thing that bothers me most is that John will not confess. All I want him to do is to call me and tell me that he did it and he's sorry.
I'm an innocent man that's been convicted unjustly, and my greatest hope is that I'm going to be out someday and that the that I'll be shown to be free and innocent.
John Hamilton's first appeal for a new trial has been turned down. The once beloved and wealthy doctor now spends his days as Oklahoma State prisoner, number 413355.